Okay, so sideline massage. This is useful for when your client maybe finds it difficult to lie on their front or lie on their back. So as an alternative, a sideline position is a really good position to adopt, and you can still access all parts of the body and give a full body massage. What we would do typically is work one half of the body and then turn our clients over and work the other half. So it doesn't matter really where you want to start, but what we'll do today is we'll start from the legs. So again, the position we will use is a very similar to a recovery position. So the leg that we'll massage first is the leg along the side of the couch next to me, and then I'll come over to this side of the leg a bit later on. So I can take the towel just to the crease of the buttock there, so that allows me a full access of that side of the leg. So when I'm ready, I'll just get my oil, rub my hands together, allow the oil to warm up, and then I can apply an effleurage stroke up through the leg. So a nice effleurage, and the access I have here is up through the calf and the shin and up into the adductor side of the upper leg. So working with a nice easy effleurage stroke, gliding back and allowing the movement to come through your legs and up into the upper leg. So driving the movement through your legs, pushing all the way up through to the upper leg and gliding back to reset yourself. When ready, we can turn to the side and we can use a petrissage movement, working up the shin, around the knee, into the upper thigh, into the line of the adductors, also the quads, and back into the hamstrings. So we just access the areas that are available to us. When we turn our clients over, we'll be able to access the other side later on. So continuing the petrissage up and down the leg, gradually increasing the pressure, working into the ankle and the Achilles. You can also use a kneading stroke, working up through the lower leg into the upper leg. If you want to use any firmer strokes, you can use your fists. You can allow them to rest on to the area of the calf, gliding up towards the knee. So if you want any more pressure, you can increase that or regulate it to suit your client. You can also take the movement up into the upper thigh, working the posterior aspect into the hamstrings, into the adductors and through into the quads. We can also use our forearms here, so allowing our forearms to work into the calf, so you can choose which forearm you'd like to use. You can use either, so I can work here with my outside forearm at the more fleshier part. You can also switch and work through onto the shin slightly, You can also then take the movement up into the upper thigh. Again, using both forearms, whichever you feel suits your particular movement. Again, the motion should come from your legs, so your legs drive the movement. And that's a simple movement or series of movements for the leg on this side. So we can cover that up and we can repeat on the opposite side. So now we'll work on the opposite side of the leg. You can see this leg is slightly bent. There's an angle here. So what we do is uncover the leg. So we want to work up into the hip area. So we can allow that towel to open to here. We can bring the towel in for modesty just around the hip. So we've got good access here. So we're going to work up and into the hip area. So the hip area around here. So again, just putting my oil on. Rubbing my hands together, just warming the oil slightly. And just going to drag that oil back and then back up again. So here I'm working the outside of the leg, so completely different to the leg that I've just done. So when I turn my client over, this is what will happen with the opposite leg. So I've done the inside of the other leg and now I'm doing the outside of this leg. So I can work with my effleurage stroke, working up towards the knee and up towards the hip. So I can just adjust my body to work and change that angle there. And then I can work my pétrissage movement. Working into the calf. Up through the IT band, back of the hamstrings, into the front of the quads. So I can access quite a few areas, working around the hip. It's nice to get in around the hip and around the back of the hip, into the hip rotators, in around the ischium as well, the sitting bone. So pétrissaging back down again. Working into the Achilles, around the ankle. Use a kneading movement. Changing my angle just to work up through the upper thigh. So again, the movement pushing from my legs so I don't strain my hands or upper back. And also again work with fists if you wish, so if you want to get a slightly firmer pressure up through the outside of the calf. You can even work with one, reinforcing, keeping your wrist straight. You can also work with two, so dropping in if you need any more pressure to suit. And you can work up the IT band towards the hip. Again, if you wanted to work one hand, or you want to work more locally into any particular point. You can also use our forearms, very useful. So again, we can choose which one we want to use. So using the one closer to the couch, I can work up through the front of the shin, into the calf. I can also switch to my other forearm. I want to change my angle of work. Using the more fleshier part of my forearm as well. So the part closer to the elbow. And also work up through the IT band and up the more anterior aspect of the thigh. And change, working up the more posterior aspect and lateral. Also use the double-handed movement here, so allowing yourself to work more locally if you wanted to work with any particular friction onto a particular spot. And that's nice also to come up around the back of the hip here. Coming into the hip rotators. Also work the IT band from the other side of the couch. So I can work with my hands coming down the leg, like so. Using a double-handed, reinforced effleurage or kneading movement, whichever I want to use. I can work in again around the back of the hip. I can reinforce my thumb with my other hand, working into the back of the hip, the top of the hip. So working with more local friction. I can also switch again using my forearms, so I can work down through again, switching my forearms to whichever one I feel more comfortable with. Also use the forearm around the back of the hip as well, so working in around the back of the hip rotators. Nice to work into them, down into the ischium as well, so working into the sitting bone. And finishing with a long effleurage. So you can add any other movements as well if you wanted to do percussions too, but you should find that working with all of those options and spending more time with them if you wish is sufficient. And then when you're ready, you can cover up and move on to the next part. So we've worked both sides of the legs. We've worked the inner side of the leg, and we've worked the more outer side of the leg. So when I turn my client over, we work the opposite. So we've worked the two sides that we would work.